At the same time, the EU was presenting their own vision of agriculture and food. And so first I will present what was in this plan. But I do need to ask you to remind you that this is a recorded event. So you can keep your camera off if you wouldn't like to appear in the recording. Breakout rooms won't be recorded. So after we present the EU vision for agriculture and food, Kat will recap on where we are on our own process of positioning. We'll present our own vision, the building blocks we suggest for the next steps of this positioning exercise. And after that, we'll go into the participatory moment. We'll have breakout rooms on 2 of the building blocks we suggest. We'll have about a half an hour in groups, in small groups, to discuss and dig deeper into those themes. And we'll recap with the next steps. So, Kat, I think, no, now it's for me to present the EU vision, so I'm keeping on. So on 19th February, just 2 days after our visioning event, actually, the EU Commission presented the vision for agriculture and food. This is a new European Commission elected for 5 years, and this will be their strategy for the next 5 years. So it's a list of potential policy initiatives, of new laws, of new ideas, of things to do about food and agriculture. So what's in there? The central question that's in this agri-food vision is that one: how to build an agri-food system that is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. So that's really the guiding question of all actions. And to us, it means that anything we suggest has to take that into account. It has to be with an environmental, economic, and social aspect. A step back on the context. Although the environment is present in this vision, this is not the main concern of EU politicians and national politicians at the moment. The main concern is the war in Ukraine, the consequences it has on food security. It's the hostile US attitude and the rise of the far right in Europe. So this is the context we have to make recommendations in, and that's to be taken into account as it limits what we can get, what we can propose. So what's in the vision, the EU vision, that is useful for what we are trying to do? I think there are lots of positive points in there. Food sovereignty is mentioned. Resilience is mentioned. Short supply chains are mentioned as something to encourage. It mentions also the fact that agriculture needs to be more nature-based. Circularity, diversity are cross-cutting themes. Agroecology as such is mentioned as practices to promote. Mixed farms are presented as well, which is something new. And then a fairer system for farmers, to start with, is really a focus point of this vision. And one last point that's useful for what we're trying to do is that the vision would like a more dialogue to take part in this, more democracy, more food councils, and more community-led initiatives to be encouraged. And that's a focus I want to highlight. This is a quote of the vision. It mentions community-led initiatives, so that's a very positive point. Community-led initiatives in their relationship with local authorities, for example, food councils. And the EU wants to promote these initiatives, wants to foster exchange of good practices, and bring this dialogue to the EU level. So that's a very positive statement that we will frame and always refer to as we need to talk about food with EU policymakers going forward. Now, yes, that's positive, but there are things that need to be improved. It's a bit vague. It is a lot of intentions that are outlined there. So we don't really know how that will be implemented. It's also scattered. For example, it refers to other plans that still need to be proposed, such as the climate adaptation plan or the water resilience plan, the preparedness plan. And these will mean that we will have a lot to focus on and will be hard for civil society to follow. This is still quite production focused. It's an agri-food vision, but it's still a lot about agriculture. It's a bit weak on cities, only seen as consumers, the focal point of consumers. It mentions incentives for nature credits, and so on, but it doesn't go very far as to how that will be done. Land use and access is also a bit weak. It is mentioned, but no EU initiative of large initiative is planned. The role of water is also a bit weak there. Innovation is only seen through tech and no social innovation mentioned. And food poverty is a bit absent. So those are the things that we could improve. And on that note, what's our vision? So Kat, how are we on that vision? How did we get there? I'm going to let you share now.
So what is our vision? As Noah said, we are working on building our own visions for a just and sustainable food system from the grassroots perspective. And am I sharing the right thing? Yes. Can you see full screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the way to do that is through a participatory policy positioning process, which is structured into 3 phases. The first part was about establishing a shared understanding, collecting your input, showcasing good practices, and mapping what the current state of the art is. And now we're in the second phase, the deepening phase, where we're trying to consolidate all this information into some specific building blocks, like we like to call them. So what we did in the beginning was to map the current situation was to group it based on what elements of the current food systems bring resilience, what elements should be relinquished, and what elements should be regenerated in order to go where we would like to go. And we did this in 2 events. And in the second event, we had a visioning moment where we imagined what just and sustainable food system in 2030 could be. And what we did as advocate team was group all of your inputs into overarching topics, which then we structured into building blocks that Laurence will elaborate on later. In order to have as an outcome a policy paper that aims to amplify grassroots voices in EU policy, one that will be endorsed by members and partners. And alongside with the policy recommendations, we will have a collection of stories to provide the actual proof that these policy recommendations work on the ground. And they will be the foundation for a dialogue with policymakers in the long run. So I pass it on to Laurence to share what these building blocks are exactly.
Thank you. So lots of work has come into this. And now we are suggesting unveiling our building blocks to you. We've discussed this with the editorial board of this process. And here are the themes we suggest working on in our next events. In dark yellow, I've put the themes that are that really emerged the strongest throughout the 3 events. So the first is local and regional food chains that are based on community involvement. So it's about relocalizing food production and food distribution as much as possible with a strong involvement of communities, of citizen-led initiatives. The second building block that was very strong was farming with nature for nature. So in there, you would see all of the practices that regenerate and restore nature. We can call them very differently. We mentioned agroecology, permaculture, regenerative farming, to name but a few. There are lots of ways to talk about this type of agriculture. It's hard to find one word, and that's something we will have you discuss during the breakout rooms. But the point is that we are working with nature to produce food in a way that's good for nature as well. Then we move on to the other topics that could change a bit, could be put in other categories. The next one is farming as a profession that's valued, attractive, and rewarding. So that could go with the theme of farming with nature for nature. We'll see how it goes next. But it was a strong one, and therefore we decided to keep it as a building block. Also, that's something that the EU really wants to encourage and foster, so it's worth highlighting. Then there are the themes linked to education, knowledge, and research. And we've divided them up in two themes. One is about education and awareness raising. There were lots of mentions of the role of schools and educating children to how food is grown, to reconnecting with nature, to reconnecting with the seasonality of food, with traditions, local traditions. And that was very strong in there. It's linked with awareness raising of having people, like the future, the kids being future adults, making sure that our society overall is more aware of how food is produced and how connected it is with soil, with local traditions, with local conditions and seasonality. Then there's another theme that can be linked, which is more about research and knowledge. So how do we do research? Do we do it in a more inclusive way, including farmers? What is our relationship with knowledge overall? How do we produce this knowledge and what for? What do we finance in terms of research? Technology is also linked to that. Technology can be an enabler. How do we consider technology in this mix? And then the two last building blocks. One is about the role of cities. It wasn't put forward very strongly by participants, but it was here and there. Cities are there, and at the moment they're really seen overall as consumers, where most consumers are, while in the country food is produced. And how do we bridge this urban-rural divide? How do we reconnect cities with their environment? How do we promote urban farming, and to do what? How do we rethink the role of cities in food production in general? The last theme is about food democracy and equity in access to resources such as land. So here, we could use the commons to inspire ourselves to make proposals to the EU. Do we want food to be a common? Do we want land to be a common? How do we manage this resource that is the land? So that's a lot to take in, and we realize that today we will focus really on the two first themes. And for the other 5 themes, we will look at them in the next event planned in May. And we'll get back to that. Now, how do we want to tackle these themes? I don't know if this is following. Yes. So now I'm showing you the mirror again. Here is how we suggest going forward in terms of structure in this process. So you see here in gray, we've put the themes that I've just described, the building blocks as such. And what we would like to do is to collide all of the input done so far with the first column on what needs to change. So that's the assessment of the context we've done together. What needs to change related to that topic. Where we want to go is our vision. And here we've put some of the main blocks we've identified already, and I've presented to you just now. Now, what we need to work on are the enablers. So what do we mean by enablers? We mean how do we get there? How do we get where we want to go? What are the incentives we can create? What are the policies we would like to see? What needs to be supported? What type of things, what type of infrastructure do we need to encourage? So this is now what we want to look into as we deep dive into the first two topics, at least. And for the rest, we will look at that later. So we wanted just to give you a visual representation of where we're going to go. So you already have an outline and a plan for what comes next. And I'm done with presenting this, Caterina. So I think now I'm handing over to you. You're muted.
Hello, I'm sending over, Juliet, could you send the link to the Mentimeter? We have two questions that we'd like you to respond to introduce our conversations. And I can't see the chat. You could join the Mentimeter. So the first question is, which strategy do you think is most effective in strengthening local regional food networks? So I see we have a lot of people who are very invested in local government policies. We see the corporate farming and food hubs are coming next. Small differences. CSA is a bit low on farmers market still, as well as consumer awareness. Oh, maybe a bit more. And thank you for your responses. And I'd like to move on to the next question, maybe. I don't know if everyone had some time to respond. It's maybe just a few more seconds. Okay. So the next question is, which practices are most important for advancing farming with nature for nature? Laurence explained what we mean by farming with nature for nature. It's a group of different practices that respect nature and people at the same time. And what would you prioritize in this process? We have this very obvious that we should prioritize everything at the same time. Where would you start from? Is there something that you would go and do first? Do you focus on first? I see we're pretty adamant about doing everything all together all at once. So these are the two questions we would like to explore in breakout rooms. So we'll be opening a poll, so you can choose which one of the two topics you'd be most interested in discussing. And as we said before, we will be discussing about enablers and case studies. So let us know in the chat, in the poll. Sorry.
As for now, there's an overwhelming tendency to go for the topic one. When I say overwhelming, it's the 85%. We can also give a bit of attention with the for farming with nature for nature to balance out the breakout rooms.
I think probably some people would like to be in both rooms, which is not an option we give. So maybe the big majority of people who chose topic one maybe can be put in topic two, but I don't know if they can change their vote now.
That is fine. So
we have two breakout rooms at least now. Yes. Good.
All right. If you want to introduce a little bit more the facilitation, or I finish setting up the breakout rooms.
So we'll be sharing a document in the chat to make sure everyone can join. So because Miro has been kind of complicated, but you can still open the Miro for inspiration. And we would like to ask you to self-organize and take notes from your conversations in the document. And you can still open the Miro board for inspiration. And then we would like to ask one person from each breakout room to share your thoughts in the plenary afterwards. And the breakout rooms will be half an hour. So I would suggest maybe 15 minutes each. Just have to share the document with you. Should be.
Okay, we are ready.
Okay, the document should be open now. If you do refresh.
So Laurence, Catherine, and Juliette, I couldn't send you, so you can go yourselves. Maybe Juliette, you can go in room. They have no number now. I renamed them. So Taya is in the first one, so you can spread yourself. Maybe Juliette in the second one with Amelia and Ashley, and then Laurence with Beste and Philippa. Catalina, you can go with Dr. Nure and Jessica, and myself, I will go to room. To one of the topic two. We're just missing one note taker actually.
Yeah, we have asked to self-organize, so maybe they can take notes.
Okay, we'll take in.
Okay, off we go. And we're closing in half an hour. 35 minutes.
At what time? So I put it at 20 minutes. So around 1:50, a little bit before 1:50.
We can move a bit more. I think we are on time. We are in advance.
5 past.
Yeah.
2:05. Okay, fine. See you soon.
So are you going to project us into meeting rooms now?
No, you need to go yourselves. I cannot send. See, I can. Actually, I can. You're right.
See them now. Yeah.
I'm on it.
Maybe. There's only 2 people. There's only one.
Yeah, they must have left now. I'm gonna manage to distribute it a little bit.
Okay. To cover and so much richness to unveil and bring awareness about. So what we would like to suggest now is that you take one person per group, gives us a bit of feedback on what was discussed in your group. So I would say 2 minutes per group, since we have a bit of time. Who would like to start?
Maybe I
Nobody
could
nominating?
break the ice
Go ahead, please.
from my room, and then whoever wants can jump in. I see Maria and Dr. Nuria. So we had a very interesting conversation. It was difficult to stick to the local and regional aspects and thinking about infrastructure. We're more about what needs to change in terms, like mentally, in order to get there. So it was one thing that emerged and we talked about was reconnecting with the food chain, like being aware of what all the extents of the food chain and how disconnecting with it is a big reason why we don't have local and regional foods chains. And a way to do it, like an enabler, is solidarity farms, different farms in the city where people can like more in a much more active way engage in this, to have like a personal connection to food, and that can bring mindful consumption, etc. And this could be more transversal, like all food education could be more transversal, like even the people selling the food should be educated in what kind of food they're selling and having connection with the producers. So food literacy was very core. Support community-led agriculture in terms of subsidies, and like make this more of a better allocation of funding. Very core topic was infrastructure and systemic planning. Like systemic was a very hot word in our breakout room, and how we lack planning on a level that could help us manage in terms of resources in general. So if we plan like a region, maybe it could, like I think it sounds like a bi-regional approach, like knowing what inputs, outputs we have so we can plan better. And many other things, maybe. Yeah, and being mindful of this input output in a more global scale. I don't know if anyone would like to, my breakout room, would like to add anything. I don't see you, Dr. Nurai, maybe. No. So yeah, that's from our part. I could share more, but
You did very well.
thank you. The next breakout room, maybe.
So from breakout room 2, who would like to present the findings? Who took notes?
Yeah, I could go. I think
You
I'm
go
not quite
ahead.
sure if we were breakout room 2 though. Or breakout room 1. I don't know. Like it was topic 1.
Maybe
Yeah,
you
of
were
course it was topic
breakout
1.
room 1.
Yeah.
I think Katarina was in the second, from what I see.
Okay, so then it was
Go
us,
ahead.
right? Yeah. Okay. So basically what we started with was actually everybody making a quick introduction about themselves. It was really interesting. We had some interesting people. We had Thea from Finland, and she is making a hub to help people in building a sustainable lifestyle. One of the things that she was struggling with was that they were having digital platforms, but that they didn't really work. The engagement there was actually quite bad. Then Sandrine, she's from Cork, Ireland. They had a whole program, and in the beginning everybody was very enthusiastic to participate, but later on that actually also went down. And then from there. We have also been talking with Nicolo, who is having a project in Italy, in Napoli, an NGO to connect community to policy with slow food. And actually what he was worried about was about tech, as he felt that tech was actually something that was actually pushing the global agriculture agenda towards smaller projects. So basically what our discussion went to was how we actually could use tech, to actually support these smaller regenerative community-led projects, basically. As one of the main things that the people were actually struggling was with building community, basically, to build participation of people. We have been talking about, of course, that people are living their lives, and that actually food, when you can go into the supermarket, that is actually an extra hassle otherwise if you would go into these smaller kind of like nature-led initiatives. So then we were thinking, maybe we could use tech, for instance, to build community, because tech could do that. Tech could also, for instance, help in helping to allocate tasks to people. And actually also what we could do is make it a little bit more fun, everything. So in all those community-led projects, to focus on, for instance, farm visits, that is focused also a little bit on education, that people are more educated around food, and farm boxes, permaculture workshops, could even in those communities make food contests about who makes the biggest potato and stuff like that. So that's a little bit the things that we have been talking about, how to kind of revive these kind of communities, basically. Yeah. That was a little bit from our group. I don't know if anybody of my group would like to add something. No. So that was it. Our contribution.
Thank you. From group 3, the breakout room I was in, would someone else than me like to present the key findings? I would actually like someone else than me to do that. Don't be timid. No? Okay, bon. I'll try because it was a very intense conversation. I took lots of notes. We touched upon quite different topics. There was a big theme about systemic change and the need for systemic change overall, beyond local and regional. We had a big topic about how we cannot build this new system within the existing system, that we need to reinvent a system and base ourselves on the initiatives that we are involved in, experiment to see how and where this leads us. Something that was mentioned as inspiration to do this are the commons, and potentially not Elstrom's commons, but other commons literature, such as De Angelis Omnia Sunt Communia, Silvia Federici, Enchanting the World. So as something to inspire ourselves on, to rebuild, to build new systems rather than rebuild. We mentioned the fact that our current system doesn't take into account the costs, so it makes the healthy and environmental friendly products look expensive, but it's because they do not take the other costs into account. We had a big discussion then on labor and the role of community in that. How do we consider labor in this new system? What is the role of communities? And how do we build communities? One person in the group said, we talk about communities a lot, but it's not that easy to build a community. It's not a thing as such. It's something that's built, and it's not an easy thing to build and sustain. So that's something to take into account. Also, it was an all-female group, so someone remarked that, and that led to a conversation about the fact that in some groups it's that can be linked to planning, transport, or agriculture, there are more maids, and here talking about how to fix things, how to care about things, then it was more women. I think maybe, this is not representative of the overall process, which has been quite gender balanced, I think, but it was an interesting remark, though. And then finally, we talked about indeed how to raise awareness about local food supply chains, about how food is produced, and have more reconnection between the people who eat the food and the farmers with open days. And we talked about the role of local municipalities in supporting local food production through canteens, for example. So, and that's just the beginning of all the things we discussed. So a lot there. And I'm going to stop there to give the floor to the last group, which was on another topic then. Who would like to take the floor from the last group, which was group number 4 then?
So I did take the notes, but if someone from my group wanted to perhaps present, that'd be great. If not, I will present.
It's hard to take notes and present, huh? I think it's hard to just have the big picture while you are focusing on the details of note taking.
It's nice to share.
Yeah, it is. So, who would like to support?
Muted Laurence.
Looks like you're going to have to go ahead.
So we had.
Don't pronounce your name, sorry.
I'm Przemek.
Przemek. Thank you, Przemek.
I support you. I'm not in your group, but I support you. Go for it.
We
No
support you indeed.
Thank you. So ours was the farming with nature for nature. We kind of identified some main topics around the ones that were identified from the prior group. One was the introduction of regional seed and breed banks. Things such as farmer seed exchange communities, cooperative seed banks, also development of EU directives around animal genetic resources. We also took a look at the regenerative farming and circular economies, the importance of financial support tailored to regenerative practice and ecosystem services, the application of circular economy principles for nutrient cycling, water use, and waste reduction, water harvesting and earthworks through technical assistance, so microbiome support, and then also using ancestral wisdom and traditional practices really to inform the decisions from a place-based approach. The importance of education kind of came up. So knowledge systems, education, research, various training programs in all sorts of things from agroecology and soil health to agroforestry. Citizen science. There's a great directive right now called ECHO, actually, I'm a soil ambassador for citizen science, ways to really work with people on the ground for collecting more knowledge, but also providing more soil health knowledge. Participatory research and various tools in order to enable that. And really community education, both from the farm component, but also the consumer component for food, to people understand what they're eating and why things are done the way they're done. The importance of grassroots participation in developing these kinds of initiatives. We also talked about by a regional lens and the involvement of local municipalities really to help place-based transitions. And the importance of dialogue and visioning, and then really policies that support those kinds of initiatives where people feel like they're part of the process. And the importance of equity and culture, so inclusion of women and marginalized communities, really perhaps even looking at a more paradigm shift approach to the understanding the human nature relationship through things like the inner development goals, So people can sort of take a look at how they relate to nature versus not something to be used or extracted, but more something to cooperate with as we are part of a larger ecosystem. But also the importance of more practical things, paid holidays for farmers and for citizens to sort of volunteer in these kinds of initiatives, and developing local food hubs to really develop these supply chains that can increase food sovereignty, and then development of digital platforms as well. And then we actually did a whole list of, there's a component of case studies. So we did a bunch of different case studies, but organizations that can support some of this that we follow or are supporters of. So that's in there as well.
Oh.
If there's anything else to add, please feel free from my group.
Well done.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the note taking. I'm seeing that in the harvesting document, breakout room 1 didn't take notes. I'm wondering were the notes taken somewhere else? And if so, could you share them with us?
Oh, sorry, I didn't share them yet. No. Where do I send them? Just in the chat or what?
Here. In this document. I've just shared the harvesting document again in the chat. And you can feel just to put your notes in the first breakout room template, since you were the first. This way you can benefit from all of your input. And you can also send us an email, of course, as Kat put in the chat. Okay, so we are close to the end. We have 2 minutes left, 2 minutes for a quick recap. Bear with me, Kat, was it you or me at this stage who was talking? Yes.
Time for a short minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could share the link again. Juliette. So the question is, what would you like to discuss next? So as you saw, we already talked about farming with nature for nature and local and regional food systems. So the question is, what is the topic that you think we should focus in our next call or calls? And it would be very helpful for us to plan if you could provide your input. I see we have some interest, but I'll give a couple more minutes for this. Not a couple more because it's already a minute to go. And I can hand it to you, Laurence, for the next steps.
So people can keep on voting as we present the next steps. So we don't prevent you from going to your next meeting or from having lunch if you're having a late lunch. The next step is our next event, where likewise we will deep dive into the selected topics, the next topics on May 20th. So please do register for this next event. Next week, we organize an advocacy training in Luxembourg. We've mentioned it before. If you are around in that region of the world, you are welcome to say hello. Just send us an email. And so in terms of next steps of the process, we will harvest your feedback, integrate them into the 2 key themes we've discussed. You can also, in the meantime, add your input to the Miro board and include other enablers or other proposals and put some ideas of case studies we could feature as part of these 2 building blocks. And it's 1 past now, so it's time to close. I see my colleagues have put the Miro board again in the chat. On behalf of the team, on behalf of Ecolis, thank you very much for your continued engagement. It's nice to see new faces as well. Thank you so much, and we will make good use of all of the harvested thoughts. And now I wish